Hello, welcome to this little video of mine. I'm going to talk about UFOs and whether there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, particularly our galaxy. My view is that we're probably alone, but there is something going on. There are UFO phenomena. I'm just going to write down something because I've thought of it just now. So. I'll come to that later. If I get to it right, okay. Now, the thing is, ultimately, I suppose I'm talking about the Fermi Paradox. This is the idea first broached scientifically by Enrico Fermi that on the face of it there are trillions of stars, there must be lots of planets, and we now know from the Kepler Observatory actually that there are trillions of planets. Surely there must be lots on which life can develop. And there must be lots on which intelligent life could develop, apparently. And we also know that within a pretty short time we are going to have, like a few hundred years at most, we're going to have the technology to build self-replicating spaceship type robots that can go out into space, go to other solar systems, terraform the planets, or at least mine them for resources to build more robot probes that can go out and explore further and send data back to us. And we've only been a civilization for, let's say, 8,000 years, 10,000 years, something like that, and we've developed technological civilization really only over the last couple of hundred years. And give us a few hundred more years, we will have the ability to build robot probes. I mean, you might argue that we may not choose to do so, but it doesn't require a collective choice. It requires one individual to do it, like an Elon Musk of the future, for example. That's all it takes in our world at the moment, with a relatively free and prosperous society anyway. Now, the thing is, on the face of it, there's been time for other civilizations to have developed before us. It looks like in our galaxy alone there are trillions of planets. There must be tens of thousands at least on which are Earth-like enough that life could have developed, we think. And furthermore, this has been true for hundreds of millions, maybe even a couple of 1,000 million years. Okay. So the Fermi Paradox is, where are they? Over a few 100 million years, with so many planets available, surely one individual somewhere has made a robot probe, self-replicating robot probe, to come out and explore the galaxy. And if we were to do this, the galaxy would be covered by these probes, or would have been thoroughly explored within a few million years. The probes don't require our civilization to survive in order to get out there. Once they're out there, they're self-replicating. They can mine their own resources. They can build copies of themselves, send them on to explore other places. Individual ships might wear out, or they can repair themselves possibly up to a certain degree. But in any case, they can multiply themselves to explore more quickly. And if so, the paradox is, where are they? We should see them. Okay, there should be signs of them. They should be here, basically. And some people say they are here with UFO phenomena. Okay. Scientists don't. They say there's no proper evidence of UFO phenomena. There's strange things, but no proper evidence. Okay, and I'm going to come back to that. But if it's correct, then, that when we look out into space, what we see are natural phenomena only. No signs of anyone messing about with it, using up resources. Everything we see is behaving as you'd expect dead rubble and matter to behave. There's nothing strange about it that you'd expect intelligent life to tinker with this stuff and cause some issues. Some different types of radiation phenomena, like different types of infrared in particular, you would see things of this sort, signs of energy use, signs of resource use. Now, we haven't explored the whole of space a lot yet, but the reasoning is that really we should have seen something by now, if it's out there. And even over the last few 100 million years, where are they? The uncomfortable conclusion is that they're not there, and that's why we're not seeing them. Now, supposing they're not there, they maybe there's one or two out there, not many, and our estimates of how easy it is to generate intelligent life are way off. That's possible. But if that's so, then we are very unique. There's another possibility that intelligent life develops easily enough, but it destroys itself before it gets to building robot probes or exploring widely. We can look at our own case here. The odds of nuclear war are generally estimated at about 1% a year, accidental or deliberate. Because crises happen all the time, and people argue all the time, and psychopaths get into power all the time, and if the rate is 1% a year or even close, over the course of a century, some sort of nuclear usage in anger is actually very likely. I mean, the rate of cancer per person is about 1% a year, the risk, and a lot of people get it. Okay. So over the course of 100 years, you're rolling that 1% die 100 times. And over 2 or 3 centuries, it's really, really likely to have happened. And there are other things that can kill us too, like bio-warfare, environmental degradation, all sorts of things. Even conventional warfare, if it's bad enough, could wreck civilization and hold it back. Super viruses, all sorts of stuff. Even celestial phenomena like meteors going off, stars exploding, and things of this sort, can asteroids striking the Earth, whatever, you know. Nuclear war, human stupidity is probably the biggest risk in the short term. And there's no real reason to suppose that other intelligent species wouldn't face similar problems. The fact that we're here suggests that intelligent life is probably fairly straightforward to develop. You can see, looking back over the Earth's history, how it's kind of got here. There is evolutionary pressure to increase the intelligence of some creatures anyway. If only so they can manage their social lives better. Okay. So the fact that we're here suggests that intelligent life can arise perhaps reasonably easily. Maybe not totally simply, but it's not very, very low odds. But the fact that there are no advanced species apparently exploring the galaxy already suggests that they don't survive, and that we won't survive, or that our odds of survival to produce exploring robots are very, very small indeed. Over the course of the last billion years or so, there should have been hundreds of thousands of potential civilizations developing even in our galaxy, it would appear. If you rate the odds of it very low, then maybe there should have been hundreds or thousands. Still, it does just take one individual to run a project to build a robot to explore and self-replicate to get the galaxy populated in what is, geologically speaking, a short time, 10 million years, or cosmologically speaking. And maybe we just haven't discovered this probe. Maybe it got here, sent off its probes, and was rusted or something, and we just can't see it. Maybe. And if there was a big civilization somewhere, maybe it would have used up some resources though, and we should have seen something. As we explore more, this question perhaps can be answered more definitively. At the moment though, it's looking like we're actually alone. Maybe not just in this galaxy, but maybe in the entire observable universe. There is much more universe beyond the distances that we can see. We don't know how much, whether it's infinite or what. If it's infinite, then obviously there are infinite intelligent life forms, and there are infinite copies even of ourselves out there. And infinity is just crazy, basically. If it's not infinite, well, it depends how big it is, basically. But we are probably never going to explore such vast distances, and in our little region of space it's not looking hopeful. It's looking like we are the first, or we're the only surviving intelligence so far, and we haven't survived very long yet either. We have to minimise these risks of nuclear war and things of that sort, otherwise we will exterminate ourselves too. Now, some people say that aliens are here, or they have been here, and there are stories of strange phenomena, strange encounters with beings. A big difficulty with the stories is there's no solid evidence, and therefore you come to the conclusion, if you're being rational about it, that it's likely to be delusions, dreams, hallucinations, liars, people making money. But certainly people do see things that they can't explain. And indeed they'll see something and say, I don't know what that is, it must be an alien spacecraft. Wrong. The thing to say is, I don't know what it is, and stop there, because you don't know what it is. Right? You don't go and make that extra jump bit that it must be an alien spacecraft. 500 years ago people were seeing strange phenomena and they were saying, I don't know what it is, it must be an angel or a demon. We don't know what these things are that we're seeing. Okay? People do see them, whatever it is, but we don't know what they are. Stick at that. There's no real evidence of civilizations building spaceships other than our own, trying to. Okay. We can look at a few cases. There are some interesting cases, and I'll stick links below, and there are more cases. I've read lots of UFO books in the past. I don't know, a lot of them are clear fakes and stories. The trouble is that it's very interesting and relatively easy, I think, to write a racy book about effectively using conspiracy theory type style and quoting evidence and fake evidence and documents that people will never see to cook up some stories. I remember the books of George Adamski, I forget what they were called, and he had some great photos of traditional UFO shaped spaceships, okay, but eventually I saw an article which said that those objects were eventually discovered to be bottle coolers made in Wigan in Lancashire, I think it is, in England. A strange, rare object, but an object that's mundane, basically. And he wrote stories about meeting these sort of tall, blonde, like one-piece suited chaps who flew into Venus, and he described the planet, and of course it's nothing like what we've discovered it to be like since then. So there's a lot of money to be made from faking stories, unfortunately, and that's true of all the psychic fields, psychic phenomena type and mysterious phenomena and conspiracy theory type fields. There is huge money to be made by selling books to credible people or people who are curious and want to know and are looking for a good, accurate book on the subject. They pick up these books and they don't know whether they're accurate or not. I'm telling you, I don't think they are. Okay. But we can look at, say, some cases where something happened, but we don't know what. For instance, the Rendlesham Forest incident in Britain. I'll read you the account of, this is the account of Colonel Holt. I have it here printed out. You can look at it on the internet. I'll stick a link below. Some unexplained lights, and he wrote this account some months after the events, or some weeks anyway. And there's no doubt that something happened, and I'll put a link down to what he says as well. Early in the morning of 27 December 1980, approximately 0300 hours, in fact he got the date wrong, it's a day out, but it doesn't really matter for our purposes, 2 US Air Force Security Police patrolmen saw unusual lights outside the back gate at RAF Woodbridge. Thinking an aircraft might have crashed or been forced down, they called for permission to go outside the gate to investigate. The on-duty flight chief responded and allowed 3 patrolmen to proceed on foot. The individuals reported seeing a strange glowing object in the forest. The object was described as being metallic in appearance and triangular in shape, approximately 2 to 3 metres across the base and approximately 2 metres high. It illuminated the entire forest with a white light. The object itself had a pulsing red light on top and a bank of blue lights underneath. The object was hovering or on legs. As the patrolmen approached the object, it manoeuvred through the trees and disappeared. At this time, the animals on a nearby farm went into a frenzy. The object was briefly sighted approximately an hour later near the back gate. The next day, 3 depressions 1.5 inches deep and 7 inches in diameter were found where the object had been sighted on the ground. The following night, the area was checked for radiation. Beta-gamma readings of 0.1 milliroentgens were recorded, with peak readings in the 3 depressions and near the centre of the triangle formed by the depressions. A nearby tree had moderate 0.05 to 0.07 readings on the side of the tree toward the depression. Later in the night, a red sun-like object was seen through the trees. It moved about and pulsed. At one point it appeared to throw off glowing particles and then broke into 5 separate white objects and then disappeared. Immediately thereafter, 3 star-like objects were noticed in the sky, 2 objects to north and one to the south, all of which were about 10 degrees off the horizon. The objects moved rapidly, in sharp angular movements, and displayed red, green and blue lights. The objects to the north appeared to be elliptical through an 8 to 12 power lens. Then they turned to full circles. The objects to the north remained in the sky for an hour or more. The object to the south was visible for 2 or 3 hours and beamed down a stream of light from time to time. Numerous individuals, including the undersigned, witnessed the activities in paragraphs 2 and 3. That's signed by Charles I. Holt, Lieutenant Colonel, US Air Force Deputy Base Commander at RAF Woodbridge. So, what the heck was it? There's another video which claims to have more or less resolved it, although I don't think they answer all the questions. Something was seen. The Colonel himself believes the objects were under intelligent control, but he hasn't said that they are alien spacecraft. Remember, he's working for the military. It surely must have passed through his mind that it's some sort of military experiment, some testing of secret craft of some sort. The military do this sort of thing. We know from Area 51 and the stealth fighters and things like that, which they were pretending were UFOs for years, in fact were experimental aircraft. And some of this presumably was the same. There are people who say they saw a lighthouse there. It wasn't lights, but I don't think you'd mistake a lighthouse for a spacecraft, or two spacecraft, indeed, or two flying objects. And anyway, in fact, in a verbal interview, the Colonel said he saw the lighthouse as well. He knew what that was. So, the radiation, people have said, well, it's just normal levels of radiation that you would get in a forest. I've looked that up, and it seems to me the level of radiation he's reporting is about 10 times what you'd expect in a forest, in fact. Not crazy amounts, but still, because the level is quite, natural background radiation is quite low, but it's there. And what he's detecting appears to be about 10 times what you would expect to find. Or in modern times, this was back in 1980, but since the Chernobyl disaster, those levels have roughly doubled in the natural environment you'd see. So he would be seeing about 5 times as much, but this was before then. At the moment in pine forests, things like cesium-137 is still circulating through the ecosystem and being absorbed by plants and trees and animals. It's not a large level of radiation, but it's roughly double the background level in some of these types of places. But they were measuring not double but 10 times. It seemed, unless I'm mistaken, I could be. The video I put a link to says that the levels are quite normal. They're not high in any case. Also, a forester has claimed that those depressions that were seen in the ground were just dug out by rabbits. Maybe. And the marks on the trees that were reported, I don't think they were reported in this letter, but they were reported separately, were hatchet marks, which the foresters make, because this was a commercial forest, and still is. It's a Forestry Commission forest. As far as I know, it's still a commercial forest. And so they mark the trees with a hatchet to say, okay, these are going to be turned into building materials at some point. And that's what those marks were. So, the point I'm making is something was seen. Some of it is explainable. Some of it isn't explainable by the people who saw it, but possibly somebody knows what it was if it was an experimental aircraft. But whatever it was, there is no evidence that it was built by an alien civilization. Not a shred. We've got things that people have seen, things people have said, a few measurements, no proof that aliens did it. Okay. And this is true of all the credible phenomena. Right, let's look at another one. Roswell. something crashed down there. Okay, I don't think there's any doubt that some object crashed. And initially the military put out a story that a spacecraft had crashed, or an alien spacecraft had crashed, or something of that sort. And then they retracted it and said, no, it's a weather satellite, weather balloon. Right. And you hear the early interviews, and they talk of strips of metallic, shiny stuff, and things of that sort. Well, I have to say this is consistent with a weather balloon. They're usually made of, shiny metallic balloons, which they're quite strong, so they can go up very high into the atmosphere. And if one bursts or tears and the helium or hydrogen comes out, it'll sink, crash to the ground. That's not actually. I know, of course, it'll be smashed to bits as it does so. I don't see any reason to suppose it's anything different. And another problem with Roswell is that an enormous number of people are making an enormous amount of money out of this now. So there are lots and lots of vested interests to fake it up. And I'm sorry, but it's just not. It's just total cobblers. The early reports really are consistent with a weather balloon, to my mind. We have the alien autopsy videos. Now I'll include a link to a video which is debunking it. This is the one where they have this sort of big-headed grey alien style critter. The greys first appeared in a book called Communion. I forget the author's name. And they capture people's imaginations, and ever since then people have been talking about greys. And there have been UFO books about them and fake videos about them and all sorts. Right. And people being kidnapped and probed by them and so on. Sorry. No. The thing about the autopsy video was it was released by a film producer. Okay, that's the first point of suspicion. He's never released actual frames for analysis. So of course it's fake. From that you know it's fake. Okay. What more do you need to say? That's it. There's another phenomenon of some doctor who claims people have tiny little metallic probes under their skin, and he's extracted some of them. And again, he won't release them for analysis. So it's cobblers. Alien abduction, which I touched upon just now. Okay. People, quite a lot of people, starting with Betty and Barney Hill and going on from there, have claimed that they were abducted by aliens and strange sexual practices were performed on them, and probes inserted in them and stuff like this. It has to be said that this looks enormously like repressed memories of sexual abuse coming out in other forms like dreams and hallucinations. It certainly is possible for people to dream something whilst thinking they're awake, or to confuse dreaming with reality and have hallucinations and things of this sort. And when it's something like that, aliens breeding with us, for example, or trying to, or experimenting with us in such ways, it really does look like a psychological phenomenon, not a physical one. It's well known, even from as far back as Freud, that people do have these kinds of illusions, or some people are actually abused and repress the memories, and some people have for some reason, false memories of such events as well. And in these days of science fiction and stuff, some people project that onto false images of aliens and spacecraft doing it. I'm sure it used to be angels and devils. Okay. And there are stories actually going back of succubus and things of this sort. Okay. So until there's actual evidence and not just hearsay, this is dismissible. And just thinking about it sensibly, why would aliens want to breed with humans, and how could they? If they're actually alien, they would be biologically different from us. The wrong amino acids, the wrong physical parts, the wrong type of DNA made of the wrong types of amino acids. If they have DNA at all, they might have some other chemical replication system. Look, we can't even breed with chimpanzees who are 98% the same as us genetically. Some alien from a totally different planet is not going to be closer to us than that. They're going to be way, way different. There are possible theorized explanations that actually the humans were seeded by aliens, and people point back to ancient stories like of Vimanas back in India, for example, which are sort of cigar-shaped flying objects that the gods were flying on, and saying that these are actually aliens. There's stories in the Bible of giants in the old days breeding with humans, the Nibiru or whatever they were called. These are just stories. There's no evidence. And if we were seeded here, why are we so like the other Earth creatures? Why are we 98% the same as a chimp, biologically? If we were seeded here, there should be some really considerable differences. Or did they come along and tweak the chimpanzees to uplift them? That's possible. Okay, maybe that's possible. But there's no evidence for it. It's just a theory. And wild theories require pretty good evidence before they can be regarded as believable. There isn't any evidence. Okay. Stories in old Bibles and stuff don't count. They're just stories. We can't verify them. Stories by abductees don't count. We can't verify those either. There's no hardware they've got. Where's the probe? Can't you steal something? I don't know. Just once, can we have an actual alien object that's definitely alien? There are stories on the internet of pieces of metal that have been found and things like this. It never seems to hit the mainstream of science, though, presumably because it's fake. There is something that's real, though. These are the lights of Hessdalen in Norway, and I'll put a link to this below. Over a few decades, starting around about 1980, I think, strange lights have been appearing in the sky as many as 20 times an hour. But nowadays they're much less frequent. And this phenomenon has now been going on for a few decades, and there are scientists there investigating it. You can see video shots of it and photos, and it looks like some sort of gaseous or electrical energy discharges of some sort happening in this area. It is certainly some phenomenon which is unknown, unidentified flying objects. But remember, just because it is an unidentified flying object doesn't make it an artifact of another civilization. It's just something we don't know what it is. The burning gases theory for these lights doesn't appear to hold because the spectra of the light has been measured and it doesn't have the absorption and brightness lines that you'd expect from burning gases. It's a solid spectrum. So, what is it? We don't know. But there is something interesting going on there. Remains to be seen. But no evidence of alien civilizations. And really, if there were alien civilizations, maybe they'd have a job finding us. But if they were sending out robotic probes, one of those would have found us, or would have found this planet, certainly. Just by sheer doubling of numbers every decade or two, or every 100 years or so. As I said, you can populate the galaxy or explore it in a few million years, say 10, which is nothing in cosmological time. And the fact that we don't see any is suggesting that actually intelligent species, although they may develop, given that we've developed, they don't become spacefaring, or they don't survive. Why don't they survive? Nuclear war, something of that sort? Maybe there is an alien species out there that is hostile to new life and destroys it when it finds it. Again, though, we would probably have seen some signs of energy usage and things like that somewhere in the galaxy. Do they not need large amounts of energy if they're going to have a big civilization anyway? Or do they just remain on one world and sit there happily? It seems unlikely, given the way life behaves. Life tends to expand and explore every possible niche, and we humans are no different in that respect. Look at how we've explored over this whole planet. We're up in the icy north, we're in the tropics, we're in the deserts, everywhere. Even we're going to be we build hotels under the ocean a bit, and we will do more, I'm sure. It'd be fantastic to live in the deep sea and watch all the fish and stuff, you know. It'd be very interesting, why not? At least have a holiday home there if you're wealthy. So, and we know that people want to go into space. People are paying like £100,000 or more to ride on the Virgin spaceship when it's built, to go up into orbit and back again. So we do want to explore, and we are typical of life on Earth, and I don't see any reason why life would be different anywhere else. The need to explore is an essential part of surviving. A life form which relies on a fixed environment in a single location is very, very vulnerable, because environments are not stable. So if we want to survive longer, we do have to get off the Earth, or at least have multiple homes in more than one star system as well, and quite widely spread out over the galaxy, because one supernova in our half of the galaxy could wipe out all life on all the planets in that place quite easily. So we have to worry about it. I think Betelgeuse is a star that's going to supernova at some point, if that's a verb. We don't want to be too close to that, but we are. It's only 12 light years away, I think, so it's a bit of a disaster if that goes off soon. We probably have 100,000 years or so to get out of the way, but we'd better do it. And it's not the only one in the vicinity anyway, and there's asteroids that can collide with us and all sorts of stuff. We need not to be stuck here. So what do you think? Are we alone? Are there lots of aliens, and why then do we not see them? Why then are they not here? Or maybe we just haven't explored enough? What do you think? What do you think about the UFO sightings? Are there any that are really credible? I haven't found any. If you do find one, stick a link, but also check it for the same thing with the word debunked in the search, and see what people are saying against it as well. Because it's interesting to see what people say about these phenomena who are trying to sell you something, but also what do people say who are seriously trying to find out the truth about these things. Are they debunkable? Are people talking rubbish? I'd like to know if there is something. I'd like to know. I'd like to meet the aliens. It'd be great, as long as they're not into probes and stuff, you know. Should be fun. So, okay, that's it for now. Leave your comments, subscribe or like. Bye for now.